In the ancient city of Samaria, a storm of suffering was about to break loose, not from within, but from without. A time of terror, famine, and despair was coming, and it would shake the very soul of the nation. Ben-Hadad, the king of Syria, gathered all his armies. This was not a mere raid or battle, it was a full-scale siege. With calculated cruelty, he surrounded Samaria, cutting off all supply routes. No one could enter, no one could leave, no food, no water, only silence, and the slow, creeping march of hunger. At first, the people held hope. They rationed, they prayed, they waited, but as days turned into weeks, and weeks into months, desperation began to claw at the gates. The famine inside the city grew unbearable. The once bustling markets became ghost towns. The people searched for anything that could fill their empty stomachs. Soon, the unthinkable became reality. A donkey head, which was considered unclean and worthless, was sold for 80 pieces of silver. And a mere cup of dove's dung fetched 5 shekels. It wasn't nourishment they sought anymore, it was survival. The city was dying slowly, not from swords, but from starvation. And in that choking grip of hunger, humanity began to unravel. One day, King Jehoram of Israel walked upon the city wall, surveying the ruin of his people. His royal garments could not shield him from the cries of starvation echoing from the streets. And then, a voice pierced the air. A woman, broken and desperate, cried out, "Help, my lord, O king!" The king, weary and bitter, replied, "If the Lord does not help you, where can I find help for you?" From the threshing floor, from the wine press, he had no answers. He had no power. Even the king was helpless. But something in her voice made him stop. He asked, "What is troubling you?" And what he heard next shattered whatever was left of his strength. The woman said, "This woman said to me, 'Give your son, that we may eat him today, and we will eat my son tomorrow.' So we boiled my son and ate him. And the next day I said to her, 'Give your son, that we may eat him.' But she has hidden her son." The king stood frozen. His heart failed within him. What had they become? What horror had famine birthed among the people of God? Cannibalism, the very image of covenant breaking, of moral collapse, of prophetic warning fulfilled. The curses of Deuteronomy were no longer words on a scroll, they were now walking the streets of Samaria. In utter anguish, King Jehoram tore his garments. But beneath his royal robes was sackcloth, a symbol of mourning and repentance, worn secretly under the fabric of power. His body revealed what his soul had long carried: grief, shame, and hopelessness. And in that moment of deep agony, his sorrow turned into rage. But he did not direct his wrath toward the Syrians, he turned it toward the prophet of God, Elisha. He cried out, "God, do so to me and more also, if the head of Elisha the son of Shaphat remains on him today." Blaming God's prophet, he sent a messenger to Elisha's house to execute judgment. It was not justice, it was desperation seeking a scapegoat. But Elisha, the man of God, sat in calm with the elders of Israel, already aware of the king's intentions. By divine insight, he warned, "Do you see how this son of a murderer has sent someone to take away my head? When the messenger comes, shut the door and hold him fast at the door. Is not the sound of his master's feet behind him?" Even in the midst of chaos, Elisha was composed. He was not shaken. He knew God had not abandoned his people. And he knew that deliverance was near. And just as Elisha said, the king himself arrived, consumed by grief and fury. He stood before Elisha and cried out, "Surely this calamity is from the Lord. Why should I wait for the Lord any longer?" It was the cry of a king at his breaking point, a cry that revealed both his pain and his impatience. But it also set the stage for a miracle. Because in the very next chapter, God would show that even in famine, He is able to open the floodgates of heaven. But in this moment, in this terrible, haunting moment, Samaria stood at the edge of collapse. A city under siege, a king at war with God, a prophet holding fast to faith, and a people so hungry, they turned on their own children. This was not just a famine of food. It was a famine of faith. A famine of hope. A famine of righteousness. And yet, God was not finished with them. Because in the darkness of human depravity, the light of divine mercy still waited to shine.